What's happening, everybody? Hope you're doing good. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the steering wheel that I have in my car. So first of all, this is an M Sport steering wheel. It came with the M Sport package of the E90, E92 BMWs. You might not have this wheel in your car, you might have a slightly different one, but a lot of people actually retrofit the M Sport wheel into their E90s if they don't have it. If you watch any of my other videos, you know that I'm a huge fan of this wheel. It's one of my favorite parts of the car, so I would recommend doing a retrofit if you don't have it, but also the regular sports wheel is a pretty good steering wheel as well. And while this video is going to be specific talking about this carbon fiber piece for the M Sport wheel, you can do similar things, and there's similar products available for the sport wheel, as well as probably the base as well. But yeah, as you can see, I have this carbon fiber trim on here. This is an aftermarket piece that I purchased from RW Carbon. It is supposed to be a legitimate carbon fiber piece. I will throw a link down below to the product itself so you can check it out, but it looks really great. It looks really good, and it's a great upgrade over this trim piece that came on the wheel in the first place. And while that piece looks great, having the carbon fiber really sets it off. It works really well with the perforated leather on the side. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna quickly show you, even though it's already on there, somebody asked, so I'm gonna quickly show how to install this piece. That's gonna involve popping off the airbag, getting this old trim piece. In this case, it's already on there, but you would be taking off the old trim piece and throwing on the new one. And I'm going to use it actually as an opportunity to kind of play with the fitment a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more about how it fits a little bit later on in the video. Again, I'm using this as an opportunity to kind of play with it, see if I can adjust some things that I would try to redo a little bit better this time around. So the first step is going to be to angle the steering wheel kind of like this, in this position. The reason for that being is the screw holes that you need to access, there's going to be 3 of them on the back. Having them in this angle gives you room, otherwise you'd be trying to work around your turn signals, your indicator stalk, your wiper blade stalk, with whatever tool you're using to undo those screws. So having the steering wheel angled like this in the first place is good, because now the next step is going to be disconnecting the battery in the trunk, because we are going to have to remove this airbag. Very important to disconnect that battery whenever you're doing anything with airbags. So I didn't show myself doing the battery back there because it's extremely windy out today. I don't think you'd be able to hear me, but basically all you need to do is just disconnect the negative terminal on the battery, pull it off to the side, make sure that it's not going to contact the terminal on the battery again, and that's going to be pretty much it for that. The one other thing to note on whenever you have a battery disconnected in this car is, because it's in the trunk, you need to make sure that the trunk stays open, because otherwise you're going to be locked out of your trunk because it's electronically actuated, and you're not gonna be able to get into your battery. You're gonna go through a whole ordeal trying to get into there. So basically what I do is I put a sweatshirt over the hood latch, or the trunk latch, and close it on top of the sweatshirt just to make sure that it's not gonna close on me accidentally. So now to get the airbag off. Once I get this airbag off, I'm gonna show you kind of the inner mechanism, so it's a bit easier for you to understand exactly what you need to do in order to get this thing off. But basically what you have to do is, on the back side here, if you can see, there's a little indent right here, there's a little slit, and all you do is you take a screwdriver or a long tool or something, and you slide it up on into there, and there's a channel up in there that you're gonna push on, basically what's sort of like a spring on the inside of here, and that pops the airbag out. Again, I'm gonna show it to you in just a second once I get this thing off. All right, so you might be able to see there, got one side popped off. Now there's the exact same slit on the other side of the steering wheel that will also do the same thing, pop it off from there. And just like that, as you can see, airbag's loose. Now there is an electrical connector on the back that we gotta take off. Make sure you pull that off before just ripping the airbag out, because otherwise you're gonna have problems with the wiring. All right, so just like that, you can see we got the airbag out, and I will just mention that on these 2 connectors, they both have these plastic backing plates right here, and you can see that they're popped up right now. When they're connected into the airbag, they're down like that. and they kind of lock into place. So you probably were able to see me in that last clip just slipping a screwdriver underneath right in here to pop this up, and then they pop right out of the back of the airbag. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you is kind of the mechanism of how you actually feel around in there with the screwdriver to pop the airbag out in the first place. And what you end up doing is you're actually pushing, you could see this piece right here, it's kind of, this is like the retaining spring that holds that airbag in there. And so when you come up on the back side here, you're coming up into this slot, from the slot down in here into this channel with your screwdriver, and as it comes up through there, you're pushing that spring back. You can see it right there. So it takes a little bit of practice, it takes a little feel. It's a little bit tricky when you're first doing it, but you do that on both sides. The airbag comes out pretty easily, and then you take care of your connectors. Now we're ready to start taking off the trim piece. What you're gonna need is some sort of T20 Torx bit to actually take off the screws that hold these trim pieces in place. There's 3 screws that you're gonna need to start with. One right on the back side right here, one right on the back side over here, and then the same thing on the other side right back here. I'm using this one T20 screwdriver style piece to get this job done, partially because I was able to pop out the airbag using the same thing as well as take care of these screws. So we'll start getting into that now. All right, just like that, the 3 screws are out. They're actually being still held into the leather right now, into the back of the steering wheel, so they didn't fully come out, which is fine. We'll get them in a second. But you can see this steering wheel trim is now loose. Now, if you're trying to pull this trim piece off and this corner is not coming off completely, you just need to look up back inside of here, and the wiring harness for these buttons on the steering wheel here is probably just clipped into this plastic tab back there. If you just reach in, pop those out, the whole thing will loosen right up. So the next step is going to be just to pop out these buttons here, and on the back side, it's what all the wires are connected to. It's the back side of the buttons, and it's just 2 more T20 bolts that you need to pop off, and then the whole thing will be loose and you'll be ready to go. Now that you took those screws off, these buttons and everything that comes with them, the wiring and all, just lifts right off, and your trim piece is completely loose, and you're ready to go for your replacement, whatever you're going to be putting back on here. Now, obviously, I'm going to be putting this same carbon fiber piece right back on. I'm going to be playing with the fitment a little bit more to see if I can get it to fit a little bit better, but in your case, you'd be swapping on the new one. So we're just going to put these buttons back on and start working the steps backwards. There is a little channel on these trim pieces that's designed to hold the wiring harness that connects the 2 different buttons on the steering wheel. So you just want to make sure that you hook it into those, so you make sure that the wiring harness isn't going to come into contact with anything that it shouldn't back here when you're reinstalling everything. So just hook that all into there, and then you can go ahead and finish putting the buttons back on. All right, we now have our buttons reattached to the trim piece. Everything's screwed in for those, and now we just need to reset this trim piece onto the wheel and redo those 3 backing screws on the back to secure the trim piece down. The one thing you just want to make sure that you're not going to pinch any wires back here, make sure everything's situated properly. And on this one, I'm going to hook this wiring harness back into the plastic hook that it came out of in the first place. I'm starting with the bottom screw here to secure this piece before doing the sides. One thing, you just want to make sure that you don't tighten too much, because this is all just plastic. It doesn't need to be on there super tight. Just a good hand tightening will do. That's the bottom one. We'll do the sides now. All right, so now the trim piece is nice and secure on there. It's bolted down nice and tight. You make sure that everything lines up appropriately. Again, you want to make sure that there's no wires pinching back here or anything. And then the last thing we need to do is just connect up the airbag again. Obviously color connect it to the corresponding pieces on the back of the airbag. green to green, black to black. So now that the airbag is all connected on the back with the electronic connections, all you have to do is slot it back in here, make sure it's lined up properly, and you just give it a push. And just like that, airbag's back in, have our trim piece on, and we're good to go. So just reconnected battery and restarted the car. No issues up on the dash other than just needing to reset the date and time, but no airbag issues, fortunately, because we took the battery off before touching the airbag or anything. But yeah, this is the finished product here. This is how it looks. Pretty easy job to do, very simple. Really just, I guess it was just 5 bolts and getting the airbag out, and was able to do it with pretty much just one tool. So fitment wise on this RW Carbon piece, there's a couple things that I want to mention. First of all, the way that the buttons sit, it's a little more recessed. There's an edge here. There's a bit of a lip. With the normal trim piece that comes with the steering wheel, it's very flush here, and there isn't any lip, and these buttons sit right alongside with the trim piece. The one other thing that I would mention is there is now not really any gap on the sides of the airbag between the back of the airbag and the trim piece, so you do have to press a bit harder on the airbag itself, and there's more of a gap on the top, so I find myself just pressing more on the top of the airbag when I want to use the horn, because kind of pressing down here, you will contact with the trim piece, and you have to press pretty hard if you're going to try and do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, real easy mod to do, real simple, helpful to know how to take the airbag out and then also getting that trim piece on and off. Real easy to do, and it makes the steering wheel look really, really good. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Again, I really like this piece. It comes together really well. Overall, fitment is decent for a carbon fiber piece. None of these things are going to be perfect when they're made aftermarket like this, but overall, pretty happy with the way it came on, and pretty happy, definitely happy with the way that it looks. If you liked the video, please throw it a like and subscribe. Got a whole ton of videos coming soon on this platform, more mods, more discussions talking about the different aspects of the platform, and we'll see you next time. All right, peace.